Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, all today's guests brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. G-Men at home at the LEC. 2 games this weekend. Friday, Portland. Saturday, Everett. Head to VancouverGiants.com to get single game tickets, flex packs, and more. Canucks in San Jose tonight, joined now by Ray Ferraro, NHL on ESPN, Canucks analyst on Sportsnet. He worked Vancouver's Tuesday game, the win against Colorado. And Ray joins us now from back east. Ray, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just I'm in studio at ESPN, and I'm across the street from it. And so studio day today, and then Vegas and Boston Saturday. Last game before the break.
Before the break, yeah. Ray, we just mentioned you working that game with Colorado. So the Canucks, 3 of a possible 4 points with their new players. Both those games without Quinn Hughes. It's the first time we've talked to you since the deals they made. What are you seeing?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Like, and I'll go back to the Saturday as well. Like, so the trades were made Friday. Saturday, I'm in Boston. JT Miller shows up in Boston. There was an energy to JT's game that looked like last year. There was an energy to the Canucks that looked like last year. I think whether people like the way it all played out or not, it needed to end. And everybody involved probably got like a complete fresh re-scrub start. Like it was obvious that both the Canucks and JT were able to finally move to whatever the next place was going to be, right? And when it seemed like it was always going to be New York, but once it was New York, he looked great. And the Canucks can't worry about that anymore because they weren't going to get that here. And the new players just inject energy and enthusiasm and a happiness to be here. And the rest of the guys can go, man, this is all kind of over. And we could just go play. And I think that's what I noticed the most, right? Like the Canucks look faster. Yeah. And they are, because Hedl and O'Connor are their 2 fastest forwards. Pettersson is there's going to be long stretches of time you won't notice him. And that's just the way he plays. He's not. So how I rate my defensemen, the 1s and 3s are the leader of a pair. They're the guy with the offense that's going to drive that pair. I think Pettersson's a 4. I think Tyler Myers is in the even number part of the pairs, right? A 2, a 4, a 6. Hughes clearly is a 1. I think Hronek, if he's on the top pair, he's a 2. But if he's on the second pair, he's a 3. Right? If he's on the second pair, he's the guy that's got to provide the offense to it. So all of a sudden, you throw in the young Pettersson, who I honestly was shocked the other night. He only played 13 and a half minutes. We did our little thing on him at the end of the game, and I said, because I don't have a stats monitor in front of me, I'm like, how much did that kid play? They're like 13:41. I'm like, is that it? It felt like he was out there for 20 minutes. Like, all of a sudden, that defense, you add Willander to it, and you're like, oh, they can kind of get around. They can move the puck here. It's like, it's a change that happened. I'm not going to say fast, but it's happened.
By the way, if you say Pettersson, Ray, that's just not going to cut it. I feel bad for you and Shorty these days, and Brendan Batchelor, and anybody who has to do play-by-play for that team.
Well, you can't be wrong.
There you go. True. Chances are you're going to be right.
Chance is one of them, right?
Hey, Ray, is Philip Hedl a number 1 center, or probably a top 6 center?
I think so. But you can think that, and then you got to see it. I bet you in 3 years, I've probably done 35 Ranger games, 40 games maybe, because they play deep in the playoffs. 2 years ago, their line, Hedl, Lafreniere, Kakko, they were amazing. They drove the energy of that team, and they produced, they scored. And then they moved Lafreniere up with Panarin the next year, and Hedl got hurt, and Kakko just never found his way. And like in 12 months, that line was just gone. So I always felt there was a skill set for him to be a number 2 center, but he could never get there in New York because they had, Trocheck is there and Zibanejad was there. There's a roadblock, and sometimes that happens to players. And I think they wanted to get him there, and then he got hurt, and you never found out. But he's going to get the chance. I mean, and his skill set is there. I mean, you can see pretty easily he's a transporter of the puck. He can shoot it. He's a hungry offensive player. Like those are all the hallmarks of what that position is supposed to have.
Ray, there's a big story developing in Vancouver. Hughes hasn't played in 3 games. The Four Nations is next week. What's your gut saying? Like, if he plays against Toronto, he might go. If he doesn't, would you send him? I mean, what's your thoughts on that situation?
There's a big story brewing in just about 7 cities right now.
Yeah.
Right? So, and this is the problem with having a tournament in the middle of the year.
Yep.
And whether it's the Four Nations or next year the Olympics, there will be a 100% angst, because these are not your bottom end prospects, obviously, that are going to this tournament. Every team that sends a player there is at risk. And I can see why teams don't love it, and I can see why the players do. If he plays Saturday, then he's going to go. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't play, I guess you have to look at it. Is that week off? Like, if there was a game on the Tuesday, would he have played that? Like, I don't know, right? I mean, he's skating. He's obviously close to going. Like, when I say going, I mean playing. He looks like he's pretty close, but like, I don't know the right answer, guys. I really don't. Like, I do know the players want to play. Like, Sid's out there skating today. Like, I don't know if you saw the footage. He's like flying and he's deflecting pucks, but he's not shooting. And so you're like, well, is he ready to go? Will he be ready by Wednesday? Should he go? Should he not go? And it's the same. And, the Swedes had to make a couple of calls. They lost a couple of players. The Finns have lost a player. Look, anything Quinn does is a big story. And I can guarantee you the team was going to want to be more cautious than Quinn is. Like, not saying that Quinn wants to be reckless. He's going to say, yeah, I can play. If he's close, he's going to want to play. But I think he's demonstrated time and time again, and I think this is one of the many admirable traits about him, a view of the bigger picture. Like, he's mature way beyond his years. Like, he gets the importance of him playing for the U.S. and for international hockey, but he also gets his importance here in Vancouver.
Ray, the other night, McKinnon, every time he touched the puck, he looked dangerous. I was watching him. I was on the edge of my seat, and then I'm watching the Canucks, highest paid guy. What's going on there? He's not looking dangerous right now, Ray. Elias Pettersson.
I wish I had an answer. You're right, he's not. I don't have an answer. I go the third period against why am I forgetting? Detroit. Against Detroit, he was awesome. Like, that's Pettersson. He created a couple of chances. He skated the puck with intent through the neutral zone. He drove it out of the corner. He had the chance in overtime where the puck flipped up on him and he shot it way over the net on the 2-on-1 with Besser. But the first 2 periods of that game and much of the Colorado game, it just wasn't there. And honestly, guys, I don't have the answer for you. I wish I did. I mean, trust me, I'd share it, but I don't. The game cannot be played at your pace. It's not like when Wayne Gretzky used to play, he'd go as fast as he wanted to or as slow as he wanted to, and the game went at his pace. And he was so scary that's kind of how it worked. The game today, no matter who you are, goes at 93 miles an hour. And it's going that way, for better or worse, right? Like, there's there's some games that goes really fast and it's like air hockey. It just kind of goes bing, 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 nothing happens. And you go, wow, 8 minutes went by and nothing happened, but it was really fast. I just don't have the answer. I'm like everybody else. I'm waiting for it too. I think one thing to note was that when they flipped Garland and Besser, that's to me, I don't know. I haven't, I didn't talk about it because I was gone out of there, but that's a pace issue. Like Besser and Pettersson together, if they're not skating, the pace just can't keep the play. And so they had to get somebody there in Garland that plays a little quicker. Besser goes to Hedel, and Hedel obviously is playing at a much quicker pace. So that, as much as you can say it goes on work or whatever, it goes on pace. It's not like I do think he tries. Like I do think he's trying. I just don't think his pace is where it needs to be, and I have no idea why that's the case.
Was the pace there before, Ray? Like a year ago?
I guess, you know what? I'd have to go back and watch, but it had to be. You don't get, like Donnie, when he up to January of last year, like, wasn't he on like a 90-point pace or a 95-point pace or something, right? And so the pace had to be there because it couldn't have not been there and still produced that way. That wouldn't have happened. The other part is the power play felt like early last year, the power play was amazing. And so lots of points went in the bank for everybody. And then as the power play faded, the points get a little more difficult to come by. But you're right, Rick. He just was not. He's not dangerous. He's not creating. He doesn't. Not that he's ever going to be Nate McKinnon. There's like 4 of those guys in the league, and like they just terrify people when they get skating. He's not going to be that. But there's not another gear here. Because we've seen it. There's another couple of gears here for him.
And very quickly, Ray, before we let you go, Canucks play San Jose. Macklin Celebrini, 17 goals, 39 points, 43 games. You're smiling here. How would you describe his season so far, his rookie season?
I love watching him play. I got to see him live in Seattle, and they just got their lunch handed to them, right? It was a brutal game for them. But there's an energy he plays the game with that it's infectious. Like I guess there's always stuff to coach into these kids, but like most players that play offensively, they come into the league and hell, I got 100 goals the year before, and then all of a sudden I realized, I got to play without the puck too, right? And you got to learn how to do it at whatever level you're at. And when I mean level you're at in the league, like, are you going to be a star? Are you going to be a good player? Are you going to be a guy that's in and out of the lineup? Macklin already plays the game at an elevated level all over the place. Like I was really impressed because there's going to be a lot of long nights there. They'll go along and then all of a sudden they looked really young, and they are really young. If you forecheck them and pressure them, they're going to make all kinds of mistakes. Their defense is not very good, but Macklin's energy continues he's got an engine in him, a motor that just drives him along. And like I'm watching last night, Chicago's playing, and I saw, even though he made some turnovers and tried to do a little bit too much, I saw an engine to Bedard. Like in that game, he clearly was stoked about playing against McDavid. And that's a good thing. Like I was happy to see that out of Connor because he's already a year and a half into getting the crap kicked out of him. And that can wear you right down. And Macklin's just new with this, but for those that haven't seen him live, and he's a terrific young man and a really, really good player already. He's 18, right? Yeah. Like it's not like he's going to run into guys and go, holy smokes, that guy's really strong. And in 2 years, he's not going to think that. He's just going to go, I just ran into a guy.
That Oilers-Hawks game was fun to watch. Ray, have some good calls and analysis back east, and thanks for doing this. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, talk to you next week. I'll be in Montreal from Tuesday. I got the games. I guess I got the games Thursday and the doubleheader Saturday, and I think everybody's starting to look ahead to U.S. and Canada on Saturday night in the Bell Center. I mean, that'll be something.
That's going to be fun. Ray, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Have a great week.
You bet.